In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to sew the darling top and dress. And in this video, I will take you through each step of the instructions. And I would recommend to keep the written instructions next to you as we go through the video. You can find the sewing pattern in the link in the description. So start by cutting out your pattern and cutting out your fabric. Now in the second step, we're going to prepare the bias tape. We are going to put the edges together, right sides facing each other, and pin this in place. Now you are going to mark a line, like in the video. This is the line that we're going to be sewing. For this step, I'm using a washable marker. We are using this method to combine the two bias tape pieces so the fabric is more spread out and will be less lumpy. So just run that through your sewing machine and cut off the top area like shown in the video. Now we're going to press open the seam, and now we have combined the two bias tape pieces. Now in the next step, we're going to be staying on our ironing board, and I am folding each side inward towards the middle because we're going to be making the bias tape. I like using this little TikTok hack where you put pins in your ironing board and can easily just slide the fabric through, but feel free to use any method that you prefer. Now our bias tape is done, and you can see here that the area where the fabric is combined is much neater and a lot less lumpy. Now we're moving on to the next step, where we will be preparing the collar ruffle. So fold one of the edges twice, concealing the raw hem. Pin this in place, and then you can put it through your sewing machine. And you want to do this to both of the fabric pieces. Now we can iron it. And in the next step, we're going to be gathering the collar ruffle. So make sure to leave long thread tails and do not backstitch. Put the fabric piece through your sewing machine on the opposite side of where you just hemmed. Remember to not backstitch and leave long thread tails. Now you can pull out the bobbin thread. That is the thread coming from the bottom of your sewing machine. For some reason, I forgot to press play as I was gathering the fabric, so if you want to see a video of this, you can skip to step 17. Now we are going to be sandwiching the collar ruffle in between the collar. So make sure your collar pieces are right sides facing each other, and then you want to sandwich the ruffle in between the two pieces. Now once you've done that, you can put it through your sewing machine. Now you can turn the collar on the right side. You can see here it looks a bit funny because my sewing and pinning was slightly inaccurate. If that happens to you, that is totally fine. This is probably one of the most difficult parts of the pattern, so just turn your collar back on the opposite side and seam rib a bit and put it back in place. Now after I have fixed that, I'm going to be cutting small slits into the seam allowance. This will help the circular hem be a lot more neat. Now you want to make both of your collar pieces, and we will iron them. Now if there's any excess fabric, you can cut this off. If there is a lot of excess fabric, I would recommend redoing it, but a little amount like what is in the video is totally fine. And now our collar is finished. In the next step, we're going to be adding the back lining. So get out your back piece, and I will be using my washable marker to mark the halfway point. Then you can get the lining piece and attach it to the back piece, right side facing each other. Pin this in place, and then we're going to be sewing inside of the inner circle. And you can see in the video that to get the bottom very circular area, I am keeping my needle down as I have my presser foot up as I'm moving the fabric. This is a helpful little trick that you can do if you have these difficult curved areas. Now I will be cutting the inside of this area so it matches up with the back lining. I will also be cutting small slits into the seam allowance. This will help the fabric look a lot neater when we iron it to the opposite side. Now in the next step, we are going to be ironing the back lining to the opposite side. So do this and pin it in place. Now we can put it through our sewing machine. And if your fabric tends to fray, you can also sew a zigzag around the edge. Now in the next step, we're going to be attaching the two upper pieces, and we will do this with a flat felt seam. So attach the two pieces to each other, wrong sides facing each other. Then put this through your sewing machine. And now we will be cutting only one of the flaps. So cut the flap facing the front and do this so it's about cut in half. Do this to both sides. Now we will iron these towards the front. Then to finish the flat felt seam, we are going to put the larger flap underneath the smaller flap and pin this in place. Now you can put this through your sewing machine and sew a stitch as close to the edge as possible. And now you learn how to make a flat felt seam. This type of seam is very commonly used as the shoulder seam for shirts. And in the next step, we're going to be attaching the collar to the garment. So here we'll be marking the middle of the front piece with my washable marker. Then with about an inch gap, you can attach the two collar pieces. Now that you have attached the collar pieces, in the next step we're going to be attaching the bias tape. So find the middle of the bias tape, and I like to attach it right next to where the two fabric pieces are combined. So attach the right side of the bias tape to the right side of the collar. Pin this in place and put it through your sewing machine. Now I am trimming part of the excess seam allowance to make it easier to fold over the bias tape. I am also cutting small slits in the seam allowance to make it look neater when we turn it on the other side. And now we will be folding the bias tape to the other side. So fold the bias tape in half, and you will be pinning it to the upper pieces. You will not be pinning it to the collar. So do this all around the collar, and afterwards we'll pin the straps. Now I will start to pin the straps, and before you pin all the way down the straps, we will do a little trick to ensure that the end of the straps also looks neat. So leave a few inches unpinned. So what I'm doing here is turning the end of the strap on the opposite side. I'm pinning this in place and then putting it through my sewing machine. You can cut off a bit of the excess fabric, then I'm turning this on the other side. And now you can pin in place the rest of the fabric. Now I will put it through my sewing machine, but I'm going to start with the collar area. I am doing this as close to the edge as possible and also having my needle on the left side. I think this is really helpful to be able to see more of the area, so I would recommend to also put your needle on the left side. Now I will be sewing the strap area. You can see here that I need to sew on the opposite side of where I was sewing in the bias tape. So sew that in place as close to the edge as possible. And now I am ironing this in place. In the next step, we're going to be working on the bottom pieces. So take your pattern piece and mark the area on the pattern piece to your fabric piece. And now we will be gathering the bottom pieces. So remember to leave long thread tails and do not backstitch. You can sew a stitch all across the top, but on the sides, outside of the marking, there should not be any gatherings. Now I'm looking for the bobbin thread. That is the thread coming from the bottom of your sewing machine. Pulling this thread is usually a lot easier when you're gathering fabric, and do not pull on both threads. So pull the thread until the gathering is evenly distributed, and then we can get out the top piece. You want to make sure that the bottom piece is the same length as your top piece. So do this to both the front and the back, and make sure to not put any gatherings outside of the markings. And now I will be attaching the bottom pieces to the top piece. So put them together, right sides facing each other, and pin this in place. Then you can put this through your sewing machine. And if your fabric also tends to fray, you can also sew a zigzag stitch afterwards. And again, remember to not put any gatherings on the side. So do this to both the front and the back. And now I will run it through with a zigzag stitch. And now I am ironing the seam upwards. In the next step, we're going to be attaching the garment at the sides. We are going to do this with a French seam. So attach the sides with the wrong sides facing each other and the right side facing yourself. Pin this in place, and then put it through your sewing machine. Do this to both sides. Then I am cutting some of the excess seam allowance. And turning it on the opposite side. Then I will pin this in place again. And this will conceal the raw hem and give a very clean finish. You can see here I'm just pinching the previous seam as close out as possible to make the seam here look as clean as possible. Then I will do that to both sides and put that through my sewing machine. And that is how you do a French seam. In the next step, we're going to be marking the sleeve. So get out your pattern piece and mark the area from the pattern piece to your fabric piece. Next, we're going to be preparing the sleeve. And here we will also do a French seam. So fold it together, wrong side facing each other and right side facing yourself. Pin that in place and put it through your sewing machine. Cut some of the excess seam allowance and turn it on the other side. Then you can pin that in place again. And remember to pinch out the previous seam as much as possible to get a very clean and neat finish. Now you can put that through your sewing machine and do this to both of the sleeves. In the next step, we're going to be making the sleeve scrunch. The sleeve scrunch should be within the two markings, but you can sew a straight stitch a little further back. So remember to leave long thread tails and do not backstitch. Remember to pull at the thread coming from the bottom of your sewing machine. Do this to both of the sleeve pieces. And in the next step, we're going to be inserting the sleeve onto the garment. And we will also be doing this with a French seam. So have your sleeve on the wrong side and put it inside of your garment. Attach it first at the seam and then on the sides upwards. Then you can either gather a bit more of your sleeve or give it a bit of ease to make sure that it fits. And now you can put that through your sewing machine. And I will show you again how to do this with the other side. So have your sleeve on the wrong side and put it inside of the garment. The garment is facing on the right side. Attach it first at the seam and then attach it upwards. Then again, I am giving my gatherings a bit of ease, or if you didn't gather it enough, you can gather it a bit more here to ensure that it fits within the garment sleeve hole. Then I am putting that through my sewing machine. And now I will be cutting some of the excess seam allowance on both sides. After I've done that, I can turn the garment on the other side and pin that area in place again. Make sure to pinch out the previous seam as much as possible and pin that in place. Then I will run that through my sewing machine, and I will show you again how I did it on the other side. So you want to put the sleeve inside so you can pinch out the seam and pin that in place. And this will again conceal the raw hem and give a very clean finish. Then I'm just putting that through my sewing machine. And now I will iron both the side seams and the sleeve seams. And now in the next step, we're going to be hemming the sleeve. Now you will continue having the garment on the wrong side and folding the hem twice, concealing the raw hem. Pin that in place and run it through your sewing machine. Do that to both of your sleeves, and now you can iron the hem. In the next step, you have the option to add a sleeve elastic. I'm using my washable marker to mark where the elastic will go, about 1.25 inches from the hem. And remember to do this on the garment's wrong side. Then I will first measure how long I want the elastic to be, depending on what's comfortable around my arm. And then I will cut 2 of these, 1 for each sleeve. Then I will first pin it in place, and then take it to my sewing machine. Then I will be pulling the elastic as I'm sewing it into the sleeve. You want to find a middle between pulling too much and pulling too little. And you can occasionally also measure how much elastic you have left and how much fabric you have left to be sure that the elastic is evenly distributed. Do that to both sides. And now we are on the last step. So still having the garment on the wrong side, we will be hemming the bottom. So fold the bottom edge twice, concealing the raw hem, and pin that in place. Then you can put that through your sewing machine. And as the last step, I'm just ironing the hem and anywhere else that needs to be ironed. And that is the tutorial for the darling top. Remember that you can also make a dress version, and it is the exact same steps as doing the top. If you liked this video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and I will see you in the next one.